cooperate with us. We'll be as nice as we can to you within the limits of keeping you prisoner. If you don't go along with us, we'll probably take you into the bed, tie you down, rape you, shoot you, and bury you. So, my lady, time's up. Make your choice.
Finding out that a member of your family has fallen victim to a tragic crime must be one of the most gut-wrenching experiences one can have. Now, add to that, finding out that the horrific final moments of their life were recorded, and now are being viewed by many. It is hard to even begin to imagine what could bring a person to do something this cruel, but the fact is, some people are just born a monster.
Good evening. It's a Sunday in October. 22nd, 23rd, something like that. Very close to my 38th birthday. And I'm starting this tape without script or without any real organization of what I want to say. But I do feel I need to explain. What I want is an off-the-shelf sex partner. I want to be able to use a woman whenever and however I want. And when I'm tired or bored or not interested, I simply want to put her away, lock her up in a little room, get her out of my sight, out of my life. A slave, there's no way around it.
Leonard Lake was born in San Francisco, California in 1945. When he was 6 years old, his parents separated, and he and his sisters had to move in with their grandmother. Lake was said by many to be an intelligent kid, but even at this young of an age, his behavior was startling. He developed the habit of photographing his sisters nude. Apparently, his grandmother did nothing to stop this, and even encouraged it. Whatever mental fuse was already lit, it's clear that Lake's grandmother only added the fuel to it, instead of extinguishing it. Lake's behavior quickly became worse. He would extort his sisters into performing sexual acts, and he would collect mice and kill them by dissolving them in chemicals. This is one of the biggest red flags of a potential serial killer. It is incredibly irresponsible of the grandmother to not intervene at any point during this. Lake graduated from high school in 1964 and enlisted in the Marine Corps, serving in the Vietnam War as a radar electronic technician. During his time in the military, he was diagnosed with schizoid personality disorder. Schizoid personality disorder is a disorder characterized by a lack of interest in social relationships and flat emotions. People with this disorder will not be able to develop meaningful relationships with anyone, nor will they want to. They are fully functional in everyday life, but will typically be loners and often cannot get any real sense of pleasure from most things. A few symptoms listed in the DSM-5 include: does not desire or enjoy close relationships, appears aloof and detached, indifferent to praise or criticism, exhibits little observable change in mood. Many people with this disorder go undiagnosed for a long time because they rarely feel like there's anything wrong with them. Now, I want to make it clear that people with schizoid personality disorder are not dangerous people. There is no direct link between schizoid personality disorder and violent behavior. Leonard Lake was a depraved individual, but his personality disorder was only an exacerbation to his sick mind, not the cause. After Lake had a mental breakdown in Vietnam, he received psychotherapy and was medically discharged in 1971. After being discharged, he moved to San Jose, where he would take some time to figure out his next step in life. During this time, he dabbled in a few things. He tried college, but dropped out a semester later after deciding to join a hippie commune in San Francisco. From there, he was many things: a hippie, an amateur porn actor, a married man, and then a divorcee. But after all of this, he moved on to the final chapter of his life. Lake moved out to Greenfield Ranch, a 5,600-acre settlement in Northern California. Here, he met the woman who would become his new wife, Kathleen Allen. They seemed to be a much better match than Lake and his ex-wife. She became involved in his fantasies and even appeared in many of his pornographic films. In 1981, Lake made a new addition to his social circle. Through a Wargamer magazine advertisement, Lake met his other half, Charles Ng, another ex-Marine. Together, they had become one of the most sadistic murderous duos in history. In 1984, Lake invited Ng to share a cabin near Wilseyville that he was renting from his wife, Balaz. Lake showed Ng a quote-unquote dungeon that he built next to his cabin. It is speculated that at this time, Lake had already killed multiple people in the dungeon. Kathleen Balaz may have been Lake's wife, but Charles Ng was his true soulmate. They armed forces to commit a series of rape, torture, and murder crimes over the next year. As if they weren't already twisted enough, they recorded the gruesome things they did to their victims to immortalize their crimes. You will likely find the following clips very disturbing.
If you don't go along with this, we'll probably take you into the bed, tie you down, rape you, shoot you, and bury you. So, my lady, time's up. Make your choice.
This is Kathleen Allen, one of Lake and Ng's victims. Her boyfriend was a man named Michael Carroll, who was a cellmate of Ng during one of Ng's previous convictions. On April 12, 1985, Mike went missing, leaving Kathleen worried about his safety. As the days went on, and Kathleen grew more worried, she unexpectedly received an anonymous phone call informing her that Mike had been shot. She immediately rushed to where she was told Mike was shot. The last person to hear from her was a friend of hers named James Biao. Kathleen called him and frantically told him about the danger Mike was in. She said she was currently at the Best Inn in Milpitas, with a man that was going to take her to where Mike was. Only a few hours after this phone call, Kathleen found herself in a place where her life would end.
That's all we wanted to hear. While you're here, we'll keep you busy. You'll wash for us, you'll clean for us, cook for us, you'll cook for us. That's your choice in a nutshell. It's not much of a choice. Unless you've got a death wish. If it ever arises again, if there's any circumstance whatsoever that leads me to think that you're even attempting to make noise, it's immaterial as to whether I hear you or anyone else hears you. You will be whipped very severely. And tell me you understand.
I understand.
I'm having a little war within myself between what I want to do and what we might call the decent thing to do. And for the moment, the decent thing to do is win. So, rest.
You'll let us know?
Probably not.
Why are you doing this?
Because we hate you.
This victim is Brenda O'Connor. She was Lake's neighbor. Brenda, her husband, and their son were abducted from their home and brought to the dungeon. Lake and Ng swiftly murdered Brenda's husband and her kid and kept Brenda alive for later.
Your baby is going to be taken away. Excuse me.
I'm going to be taken away.
There's a family down in Fresno that doesn't have a baby.
You're not taking my baby.
But and the baby's dead, right?
I mean, they got one now. That's my baby.
Brenda, you have a... Her baby is sound asleep, like a rock. We don't like you. Would you like me to put it in writing?
It's done. Just stick to whatever we tell you.
I'm going to pass out if it's in the night or something.
Well, you can pass out, but we won't wake you up.
Brenda, I have a lot of animosity against you, and I would just as soon start you out with a nice firm whipping right now to make you believe how serious we are.
On June 2nd, 1985, Charles Ng attempted to steal a vice from a hardware store, likely to use on one of his victims. He was caught and immediately fled the scene. Leonard Lake drove to the store later to try and pay for the vice, but the police were waiting there when he arrived. They took his details and noted that the driver's license he gave them was a license of a man who was reported missing several weeks earlier. They ended up searching his vehicle and arrested him after finding a gun that had an illegal silencer on it. While in custody, Lake took the easy way out. He swallowed a cyanide pill that he had sewn into his clothes and died 4 days later. the police were able to use Lake's auto registration to find the cabin in Wilseyville where he built his dungeon. At the scene, they uncovered a makeshift burial site where they found roughly 40 pounds of burned and crushed human remains. The police also found a hand-drawn map that led to 2 buried 5-gallon buckets. One contained a collection of ID papers and personal belongings, suggesting Lake and Ng may have killed up to 25 people. The other barrel contained journals that Lake had written and videotapes documenting the torture of their victims. Charles Ng was nowhere to be found. Later that year, Charles Ng was arrested in Canada when he shot a security guard while shoplifting again. The US authorities now knew where Ng was hiding. In 1991, they were finally able to get Ng extradited back to California to face trial. Ng delayed the trial for years by firing his lawyers, changing the location of the trial, and applying to defend himself. In 1999, the trial took place.
Now, the defense in this case is really simple. And that is that Leonard Lake had a motive for murder. And that motive was grounded in a deep-seated hatred of women.
Ng's defense was that, although he was present during the murders, he did not actually take part in any of them. He simply held the camera. Now, seeing the sadistic way Ng treated the victims on the videos swiftly demonstrated how ludicrous this claim was.
We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Charles Cheetah Ng, guilty of the murder of Harvey Dubbs as charged in count 3. We further find the murder to be of the first degree. We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Charles Cheetah Ng, guilty of the murder of Michael Carroll as charged in count 7.
By the end of the trial, Ng was found guilty of the murder of 6 men, 3 women, and 2 baby boys. He was given the death sentence. After the sentence is given, you can hear people in the background celebrating.
It is the order of this court that you shall be punished by death. Said penalty to be inflicted within the walls of the California State Prison at San Quentin, California, in the manner prescribed by law.
I'd be ecstatic as well. For years, Ng delayed trial, thus delaying any sense of closure for the families of the victims. It was finally over. Today, Charles Ng is on death row at San Quentin State Prison. For the time being, there is no set date of execution, as the governor of California has placed a restriction on execution. No executions have taken place in California since 2006.